I said, what's on the agenda?
Just because this week after road closures. We'll discuss it.
We'll discuss it later.
But he put a lot more coffee in it.
So give me the same speech for next week.
Tom's the best. When he did it, it made me cry nearly.
Well,
Mike has made me cry, but I was very hungover.
a guy came up to me and said it was the best he'd ever heard.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair,
You tell him where you could find
where I
it.
went from was very good.
Yeah, that's why I nicked it.
There we go.
With that. Sorry.
Your Lord and Master.
The first time anybody's witnessed one.
It's only only I found at the camping process.
Yeah.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Barnoldswick Full Town Council meeting on the 2nd of November. 9th, Sarah. Have we got any apologies for
We do Marjorie Adams, Lindsay Gaskell, Mick Strickland and Emma West.
Okay. Anybody got any declarations of interest? I'll take that as a no. Item number 3 is open forum. Do we want to bring forward item number 10 with that, so the members of the public present can...
I just moved it up the agenda, I'll give you those two.
Right, okay. So I'm going to jump... minutes of last meeting.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Minutes of the last meeting.
Yeah, move for a second.
Thank you. Right, can I bring forward item number 10, the barriers on Raynor Road, to discuss the repeated damage to the barriers on Raynor Road? David?
Yes, Chairman, I'm aware that we do have a member of the public that wants to perhaps speak to the council on this one. But I think it was the evening of the last area committee, which would have been a week ago last Tuesday, that met at the Raynor Centre, and then shortly after the meeting, the barriers, which have only recently been replaced, were damaged by an articulated vehicle cutting the corner short. This is the umpteenth time that it's happened. The backstory on this is quite a long number of years ago there were proposals to put an improved radius on that corner, and there was a little bit of funding earmarked for it, but it was found there was a cellar in the Chinese takeaway which precluded it happening, or it doesn't necessarily mean that it couldn't happen, it just meant that it was a lot more expensive than it would otherwise have been. I think well before that there was an option to provide a new road that would have accessed Silent Night off Kelbrook Road, but that was a multi-million-pound project and it didn't get anywhere. So the only thing that has happened going back a few years is that there were two big, I can only describe as anti-wagon bollards put in, which are intended to deflect vehicle, HEV wheels away from the corner, but they are not very effective. And I think just folk are fed up of them being regularly damaged, and obviously the cost of that and the potential danger, the barriers end up bent onto the pavement, people could trip, and so on and so on and so forth. So I've asked for it to be on the agenda here in order that we can put pressure on the county council to do something effective about it.
Yeah.
And I'm not suggesting that they might build a multi-million-pound road, but that's an option. They could improve the radius, as was considered previously, and they could do something with the road markings to set the stop lines back to allow articulated trucks to make a bigger sweeping turn and avoid the barriers. There is one business that has large tanks which has like oversized vehicles, and I know that they struggle, and I've seen damage caused by them, but in ordinary circumstances normal articulated vehicles can negotiate that corner as long as so it is possible to get round. So that's the story really. I asked for it to be on the agenda in order for us to put proposals forward and ask the Lancashire County Council to do something about it. And I'm not sure whether our member of the public wants to speak to the meeting.
Hi, so I'm Angela from Silent Night. So I'm here really with the Silent Night hat on. Didn't realise you were on here. She could probably answer for this column. So I just happened to notice the incident on Facebook and picked up on Panther and just thought, well, that's probably to do with Silent Night, so let's just have a look at it. The resident, who very kindly took photographs and details, means that we have actually been able to trace it to the driver. The incident's reported, it's been dealt with. Obviously, it's Silent Night, we were concerned for lots of reasons. Probably agree with what David's just said. We've also escalated it to Lancashire County Council, asking for the same things about the lines being moved back, and just aware of it. And obviously, as a major employer in the town and wanting to protect everybody, just really wanted to support the proposal really. So that's I've just really come to here to say it's not our driver, they're a third party contracted driver, but there will be. We've just won a major contract that means there'll be more traffic. Yeah. So therefore we just want to be making sure we're doing the right thing really.
Can we not redirect them? Go down Valley Road to the Willhouse Road.
This still ends up there's wherever you go around there's challenges at the end of the last road, is it?
Yeah, it's
with
easier
the parking.
if they come down Willhouse Road to the end there, they can turn right, go to Thornton and turn right again through Early rather than turning left at the traffic lights.
Okay.
Well,
I'll pass that back then. I'll pass that back, yeah.
What?
If they're going to Cone,
Yeah, so turn
they're
right.
going to the motorway.
Left, if they can turn left. I think the left will be a bit tighter.
It is tighter, yeah.
You've got the thing there though, they're going down past Albert Park, which you've got Bank Street Park up there, and there has been an incident of a fatality on there with a wagon. Many years ago.
A heavy goods vehicle route through to the industry.
Yeah.
And you've also got the added thing of some of them use and go straight across courts, and that's I've helped someone reverse on that.
I'm not suggesting they go through coats at all. The bridge has got a weight limit on it anyway.
No.
Bridge.
No,
So, does it not?
no.
I'm sure it did. Oh no, it's after the canal bridge, isn't it?
There is something in place which stops our drivers going through courts.
Yeah.
It was just a thought they could divert and go round as opposed to turning left at the lights there. And
It depends on where they're going. Sometimes they come down Valley Road, sometimes they go straight up. It just depends where we're delivering to from there, where they're going.
But I mean,
obviously they could go down Valley Road.
I'm not just.
Well, they do go out Skipton.
Yeah, I'm not just isolating Silent Night and that.
Yeah.
I mean, generally.
Generally, the wagons come from that direction.
Chris?
Would the increased radius with some kind of reinforcement for the cellar, etc., be a satisfactory solution, irrespective of the cost or whatever? Would that curve be enough?
I think the dream solution is we have freight by train and we don't need the outer.
You can also reinstate the canal.
I think the most likely thing we'll raise is the stopping further back.
Yeah.
Stopping further back.
Yeah.
With stopping behind the crossings rather than, which that is the most likely solution and the most obvious and cost effective one.
That's what we're proposing, yeah. 6 foot back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
David?
Chairman, I think we should highlight the issue to the County Council, although they ought to be aware of it.
Yeah.
I think we shouldn't be shy of suggesting, you know, the whole gamut of things that we can think of. If they want to knock them down or say they can't afford to do them, that's for them to do. But we all know how difficult it is to get the county council to do anything anyway. So if we start off with, say, a £12 million road, you know, they might well sort of end up with something relatively inexpensive, you know, even if it was improving the radius, or a combination of different things. You know, Mike's suggestion of trying to reroute some drivers being lorry drivers, you know, there's only so much any one company can do, because if a delivery's coming in, they'll probably follow the sat-nav back to the county council, highlight the issue, and say that, you know, this is a recurring problem, not only recurring, but it's been happening for donkey's years. We list the ideas that we've just been mulling about, which I won't go through again, but I'm happy to if Joe wants me to. You know, which a new road coming off the new road, off Kelbrook Road, by the side of the school, and then coming into the lorry park. We seriously put it forward, probably 30 years ago, but you know, we drew plans up, and it didn't get any traction. It didn't happen, and it's unlikely to happen again. However, the benefit of that is that it would address another issue, which is the church school and the horrendous problems there are with all the vehicles going to church school conflicting with everything else, the sports centre, and it would allow a different access into there. So there are benefits. Third thing is setting the stop lines back. Sorry, I'm running through them now, aren't I? Rerouting traffic where possible. But I thought there was something else in there. But,
What was it?
right. So
There is some.
Raynham Road
Yeah.
and turning left onto Essex Street.
Right.
And there's if the drivers are unaware, I mean, the drivers that know about it, they pull right over onto the police station side of the road. In other words, the wrong side of the road, but it doesn't matter because of the traffic lights. And then they've got enough swing to get round, and they don't catch the railings, or they don't catch the bollards. An unwary driver might, approach it and then find, oops, we can't get round. But the biggest problem that I've seen is that even people who take it wide come round, and I'm not saying longer vehicles, but I think some of their vehicles, because of the size of the tanks, are wider, and I've seen them struggle because the geometry is just literally, virtually impossible.
Yeah, they should definitely be route, to be fair.
But they'll say, well, we pay road tax as everybody else does, and we've got a road. Yeah.
I mean, just playing a bit of devil's advocate, I mean, those crash barriers are designed to be crumpled and replaced easily. They're not the most expensive barriers in the world.
Maybe the people who are standing there might be a little bit more fragile.
Is it worth considering the additional cost of a CCTV camera so we could identify drivers?
There is one.
There is one with the police station.
Actually catch it, will it actually catch the... Sorry, okay. So
Yeah.
Going over the police station.
it catches that camera all the time.
Yeah, the camera, it doesn't matter, but the camera is permanently trained on that junction.
Okay.
So where it is, it does.
So
Yeah.
are we, is it going through, are we identifying every time it happens?
Well, the recent incidents that I'm aware of, a resident who lives just up the street who recognises the noise. When he hears it, he rushes out with his camera and captures it.
That's what I don't want to rely on, you see.
And then the one previous to that, somebody who got video footage which we submitted to the county council, so the county council know about it. I don't know whether the county council actually pursue any of this. Whether they actually, their insurers contact the insurers of the vehicle. But I've been involved in 4, maybe even 5 cases now where I've got details and passed them on to the county council. And in one case, the police got involved and identified the driver. And to be fair, I mean, there was one incident where the person who was driving, sort of went out of his way to say, look, I've done this damage, company. So hopefully, restitution runs up being paid for by whoever did the damage.
That's not the point either. We need to stop it happening, don't we?
Yeah.
It's only a matter of time when
Remember
till there's
bubble
someone
there.
stood behind the barrier when it happens,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
the fear.
Yeah. And if there is not only the business but this new contract and more traffic, then we'd rather help them than catch them.
Yeah. Like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Relate to this? Would there be any benefit? We've got a good relationship with him as a business. Is it worth us contacting him because he's always contacting us?
Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Sorry. Don't put up. You could.
Chairman, no, I mean the MP.
You could, and if he gets back to you, it'd be great to know, because he never gets back to anyone else.
No. I don't get back to me when I email him things either, but never mind. I just thought it was worth a chance if he's interested in
I
this.
think it is an idea.
They're not for me.
Chairman, can I test your patience? Because although this says barriers on, up at the traffic light,
Can we have
Are we going down
Can we-
the road now?
I'm going down Gisborne Road because I think the county council have come up with a wonderful solution to a similar problem at the Minna roundabout. Because instead of having the metal ones that get damaged,
The
you just have
plastic
plastic ones that blow over. So another solution up at Raynor Road is they do away with the metal ones and we just have plastic ones that blow into the road all the time.
Oh, but driver could nip out, move them back.
It's been very bad, isn't it?
Yeah. But more seriously,
Yeah.
I mean, they've blown over again today.
I don't like it first thing this morning.
Yeah, I mean, they repeatedly get blown over. People are either they're falling onto the pavement or they're falling into the road and they're causing a hazard.
That
And
needs to be
so
taken
I wonder
care
if we contacted the county council, we could just pick up on that as well and say,
Time
we
scale for a
don't mind the plastic
It's
bags,
there-
but please,
there
please,
to
please.
protect school
I think
children.
they've been there
They
for
need to be there.
I
6
did hear
weeks.
rumours on that one that they ordered the barriers and they ordered the wrong barriers, so it was to go back to square one again. I didn't disbelieve the rumours because it sounds like Lancashire.
They rarely go down.
Right.
Are we?
Yeah.
Are we sorted for that?
We have a proposal, have we? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Letter to area committee.
No,
Well,
to the county council.
County council,
I'll
discussion
say
at area committee.
Yeah, we want a £12 million new road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if we can't have that, just move some lines.
While that took them out on time, I go to the road and market.
Right. Item number 5. Committee work and working group reports. To review and confirm and approve. Oh, wrong one. To review and note the minutes of the committee working group meetings held since the last meeting of the town council, which is general purposes on the 12th of October.
Can I move those, Chairman?
Yep.
I don't think there's anything on here that requires any update. Apart from on the events programme, the one of our former colleagues, Ken Hartley, had flagged up that we were coming up to the 100th anniversary of the installation of the war memorial that is now down in the town, up at Letcliffe Park. Callum looked into it. That is in 2023.
Yeah, that's next year.
So it's not something that we need to do. It says in the minutes, it says, sorry Joe, volunteers are needed to marshal the parade.
Just stop that.
Just in case anybody out there is actually reading these, it is actually volunteers are needed to marshal the parade.
And if anyone's watching, we can still do with some marshals.
Well, nobody's watching, but they might be listening. Can I just say we've had a very kind offer for the Switch on Parade, which is the following Saturday,
Yes.
from the Rotary, and I asked if they could field 30 people to do the marshalling, and Eric, who's I think he's president this year, he said, well, we've only got 19 members in total, and 3 of them. So we are looking for marshals both for Sunday afternoon, when the parade is 3:30ish, this coming Sunday, for Remembrance Day, and also for the Switch on event.
Should we put something out on Facebook?
Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah.
Points at hotels, I don't think.
No, I thought there was about a grant application, but it's alright. I realised it's not on there.
Yeah.
Was it on this though? Sorry.
Oh,
I think there's something that's happened that we need to tell everybody.
There is
you mean on the back page?
a grant application thing in the GP meeting.
Yeah.
The water station's one, but we haven't told everybody about that.
Okay, yeah, sorry, right.
Yes.
We put 2 applications in to Pendle Council's West Craven Area Committee. One was for match funding for additional water bottle filling stations, which has been approved in full, and we also applied for
6,000.
the money for the bus stop improvements, which it is reported in the minutes that that's been approved. The other one is for the
Greenfield
allotments, where we got 20,000 and we applied for 6,000 from area committee, which again has been approved.
Yep.
So we've got a bit of investment to carry out.
Anything else?
That's it.
That's it. Right. Item number 6, finance attached. To confirm and approve payments made by the town clerk to the council since the last meeting of the council.
I move them, Chair.
Second.
Can you let me finish?
No. Joking.
You do something about these things.
Pen in hand.
Found the fancy. Item number 7, the bus stop area to consider options for future planting. This is the area near the bus stop. It's the wildflower area. David, would you
Right, Chairman. Brief history. A few years ago, the Bloom team, of which I'm one and Tom's another, asked if the area could become a wildflower area. It was sown with stuff that is good for pollinators. Whether it was the right mix or not, another matter. But over the fullness of time, it became dominated by particular plants which weren't necessarily appropriate. And I recall that it was, yes.
Yes, you
Sorry, people who are listening to this can't see the gestures. But Councillor Whittingham suggested that it didn't set the town off at its best. So, big do's and little do's. The soil, which by that time had got all these seeds in, all the stuff that like teasels and things that you do want if you want diversity, but you don't want if you want a more pristine sort of area. That soil was moved onto the part of the town green where the teasels and other stuff continue to flourish, and fresh soil was imported to the bus stop rather than the bus stop in order for a new wildflower scheme to be sown and maintained as such. before any sowing was carried out, the seeds within the soil that had been imported germinated, and there was quite an interesting display of indigenous plants, which are also, in some people's minds, weeds. But the wildflowers, and they were quite good. The Bloom Group has discussed this. They had it in mind to do different things with it. Going back, there was a proposal to turf part of it, have a smaller wildflower area around a tree in the centre, which hasn't been done. But there are different points of view within the Bloom team as to how it should be managed. Now, cognizant of the fact that the rest of that area around Old Gormless is going to have further work carried out with new lighting, benches, additional pole planters, and the like. The Bloom team wanted the town council to resolve the issue, because they can't, they're divided, about what happened to the planting at the back of the bus stop. And one of the Bloom members has emailed with some of the options, and it's fallen to me to read this out. Thank you very much. So, this is from Hugh, who's part of the
He would have been
team.
here, but he's away.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't want to attend.
And he represents one of the strands of opinion within the Bloom Group, and there's a range of different opinions. I believe the Town Council is considering plans for the area around the Barnoldswick Centre bus stops and the fountain of Gormless. This note is about the part that is now a wildflower area. Barnoldswick and Bloom members have discussed the future of the wildflower bed over a protracted period and have come up with 3 options to suggest to the council. These are: 1, keep it as it is; 2, to keep wildflowers with some management and an explanatory information board; or 3, turf the area over. If councillors are considering these possibilities, I'd be grateful if they could be made aware of a thought that has occurred to me in relation to the wildflower options. In this, I'm not speaking for Barnoldswick and Bloom. I'm not seeking to distort the clear view the group reached on offering of an information sign could transform the wildflower patch into a positive, entertaining new feature by making a virtue of it being at the bus stop. Such signage could declare: a light here for bees, butterflies and beetles, and wildflowers and herbs; or change here for bees, butterflies, blah, 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 blah. Or it could be a pictorial sign showing a queue of creatures and plants boarding a bus with a destination, such as, for example, better times, or something else on similar lines that council about what we could do in addition to whatever happens with the planting.
I quite like the idea of keeping it, but not as it has been, and signing it. Yes, Councillor Kingdom. You want to turf it, don't you?
No, I was never against. I just want to make it perfectly clear that I'm not against the wildfire scheme. Okay, the original issue I had was it looked unkempt. So for me, providing it's looked after and it's kept neat and tidy and it looks nice, because it's that area of the towns, you know, that it's meant to look nice, then crack on and put a sign up. Yeah, lovely. I like that.
Yeah, I like that idea as well.
Yeah, the sign idea is good.
Yeah.
It
I like the one where it's like it's queuing, I think. It's all
tells people
cool. Yeah.
that it's not
Get
just pretty
children
weeds.
involved as
People
well.
just think it's weeds.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Yeah, I think the issue lies that you can't have cultivated wild flowers.
Kind of
I know it's-
slightly on wildflowers then.
Unwild. Yeah, I mean that gets back to
even shorter.
Educational
Even
flowers.
shorter
Yeah, I
wildflowers.
mean this whole sort of thing in the Bloom Group is sort of the competition between horticulturalists and ecologists,
Yeah.
and they're all sort of wanting to plant stuff, but it's different mindsets, and I mean, really, if we're going by theme, we've got, you know, Victorian water fountain, Victorian style embellishment kits. It could be a Victorian style bedding arrangement, but those are known to be really negatively unbeneficial to ecology, and expensive to maintain. Yeah.
Yeah.
Artificial custom.
That's,
We can just brush that over.
Right. Do we want to possibly take a vote on the three options?
Well,
David?
Chairman, my personal point of view is I do think the area needs some management.
Yeah.
If it's left, what happens is you don't necessarily get a great deal of diversity. You may not have a green desert, but you get one particular plant will seed more prolifically than anything else, and you end up being swamped by whatever. Now, that whatever it might be perfectly good and it's good for the environment and everything like that, or it may not. Tansy, which is quite prolific, that isn't really pollinator friendly. In fact, people used to use tansy to keep a modicum of management. It may be that some of the stuff that's in there at the moment is not suitable for restrained growth. I'm not saying they're invasive species, but they take over. And my particular dislike is when we've done wildflower areas, and we've done quite a lot now, you end up with dock coming out, and it don't really do a lot for anything unless you've got a nettle sting. So I think it needs some management, and I think that would require some effort and expenditure on a regular basis to keep stuff in check, to actually encourage diversification by introducing appropriate species, and I fully support the provision of an interpretation sign.
Rather than sort of saying wildflower, an educational flower bed.
It would be possible for us to use one of the existing signs.
If we're going to be spending money on it, I mean, we could take some inspiration from an RHS garden and have a permanent planting scheme there, with some plants.
Who's gonna manage it?
Well, I think it's on us to maybe hire someone to caretake it.
Am I allowed to speak?
Yeah.
So I'm part of the Eco Barnoldswick group, as Tom knows, and we've been talking about some areas like at the church where we have our meetings. I am sure that the Eco Barnoldswick group would love to take management of that and let us have a go at it for a year or two. If there's a little bit of funding to help with the planting, quite interested in urban sort of rewilding. It's all about engaging people, education, getting kids involved. Is there anything, foods they can make from it, to do it as kind of an ongoing activity throughout the year?
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Yes.
And music from my ear.
Thank you very much.
And Hugh's also part of that group, so.
Yeah. And Chairman, as far as signage is concerned, I am the treasurer for Bardic in Bloom. There are funds available, so I think it would be perfectly reasonable for the town council to say, this is our preferred course of action. We would like some signage, but would the Bloom Group pay for it?
Yeah. So is that a resolution? Do we have a...
Yeah?
Yeah, I that.
Yeah. It seems to be popular.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay. I think we've got a third, fourth and fifth.
Next.
Right, item number 8. Request from Bosom Friends to consider a request for Bosom Friends to use 2 gazebos and electricity for a Memorial Day on the 18th of December in the town square. David?
Yes, Chairman, I'm happy to propose that we do approve this. Depending on the outcome of the funding bids that we put in for events in the new year, we may be keeping up the marquee for a little bit longer. So it might be that we don't have to set up pop-ups and things like that.
Yeah, nice.
That they could make use of the marquee, but it might have been taken down.
Callum?
I'll second that, Chair.
That's what I was going to say.
They might not need it. If the weather's okay, then they won't need any of it. It's just in case the weather's not very good.
Yeah, but if they're using electric, one of our rules is
Yeah,
it has to be covered.
yeah. Okay.
So even if it's a
It might not be
wonderfully bright sunny day,
No, we're going to say if the
Yeah.
marquee's still up, it's no brainer. Item number 9, GP provision in Barnoldswick. To discuss the current GP provision in Barnoldswick. David?
Chairman, I asked for this to be on the agenda.
Yeah.
I can't go into any details, but in more than one case, quite distressing. The general problem is that across the country there's a shortage of thousands of general practitioners. With my Pendle Council hat on, I represent part of Barnoldswick and Earby, and I've got a lot of residents who are with the Richmond Hill practice, and I get the same sort of issues reported. But it's not necessarily a problem with the surgery and the local practice. It's a national problem expressed locally because of what we've got. And my understanding now is that in Barwick we're down to 4 GPs. When we met them as a town council going back a few years, probably before some of the people who are on the town council now, they said their biggest problem was getting GPs to join the practice, and they were actually training GPs at the time. I don't know if they still do that, so as to grow the pool, essentially. But Kenny retired, Dr. Jackson has retired. Apart from my own GP, I haven't a clue who the other GPs are.
I don't even know who mine is.
So, really, 4 GPs is wholly inadequate. And I think we could meet with the practice manager, and we could express our concerns about the lack of access that there is. To be honest, I think they would agree that there are big issues because of the inadequacy of the GP numbers overall. But I think we should go a step up above that, and we need to be talking to the integrated care team. There used to be they've got the clinical commissioning groups, which have all been rejigged recently, and we used to have an East Lancashire clinical commissioning group, which we could go to about primary care, which GPs are part of the primary care network. I think we need to be making representations to the new setup, the new system, and say which are up to scratch really, because and I absolutely don't want to criticise the surgery, but we have patients who are being failed, and that the implications of that are awful. So I think I'd like to propose we write to the new powers that be and say, come on, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
Will you meet us to discuss it? Make sure it's on their agenda.
Do we have a seconder for that proposal? We have second. Couldn't agree more. Do we all agree to that?
Yeah.
Right. We've done item number 10. Item number 11, to consider a request from Hope Technologies to discuss how the Town Council can support the National Championship.
Well,
David knows why.
I'm going to say Joe could take this one.
He's living the sound of his own voice tonight.
Thank you, Helen.
Have you got any lozenges for him?
Right.
Got a Paul on him.
Hope Tech have taken over what was the pitch and putt course and most of the Rolls-Royce sports field, and they're using it for cyclocross. Cyclocross is like a muddy bike-based activities which is good fun, and they are hosting the National Championship on 17th and 18th of December. This is quite a prestigious thing. Once they've done a few of these, there's a possibility of the event being televised, and you know, it's good stuff really. Rebecca from the Hope Academy approached Joe and myself and said, could the Town Council assist with promoting the event? And we said yes, of course we could, subject to this agreement at this meeting. They are wanting to bring their trailer to our switch on so that they can promote the event in advance. We talked about the possibility of us assisting with the distribution of flyers to schools, possibly including like a free advert in one of our event publications before the event as well. So stuff like that. And I think there's a general invitation for anybody to go down on the 17th and 18th. It's open, they said all age ranges, but I'm not sure whether there's a minimum age range. It's good fun on two wheels. It's healthy outdoor exercise with mud thrown in, and
What do they want?
Just want,
Everything.
they just want some help with marketing. That's
Yeah, just want to make it known to people, basically.
Nothing we can actually do on the day to cover for that.
Yeah.
I'd second David's proposal there for the advertisement and all that stuff that would want on the proviso that David takes part on the 17th. Because it's fun.
absolutely. Well, Councillor Tom Whip,
Oh, he likes his bike.
Councillor Tom Whip, if he isn't working at Halfords,
Probably am,
would no doubt
Book it off.
I have a stepson that rings me for 350 quid for a new bike and he's going whether he likes it or not.
Already several dozen bikes wanted to be built on that day alone.
Matthew's 12 and they will use that.
He's already booked time off for Remembrance Sunday
And switch on.
and Switch On.
And today.
And
Sorry,
tonight.
it's in all seriousness.
So in that
Sharon, I
case,
second-
you'll
You
be
seconded
joining in then, won't you?
Are we
sure,
all
I'll
in
try
agreement
and-
on that?
Yes.
Yes.
Um,
Tom?
Are we extending an offer for our PA system, etc.?
They've got it all in hand.
Fair enough.
Oh, excellent.
That's what the main impression was.
Are we all in agreement?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Item number 12, planning applications. Hey, I think this is covered by 9 as well.
Yeah.
The numbering's
Proposal.
right tonight.
Pardon?
The numbering's good tonight.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Might not be able to spell or read, but I can
I can't find one spelling mistake on that.
Right.
Challenge accepted.
Are we paying attention?
No,
No.
No chair.
Look at this now.
Oh,
Sorry, come on.
Just double space there.
Is that the plan?
yeah, planning applications. A, full external alterations involved in the conversion from bank to clinic, including insertion of a new door and window and replacement of doors and windows. At number 2, Newtown, Barnoldswick. You don't need to know application number. Quite frankly. Who's going first? Mike.
Thanks, Chair.
Sorry.
It's a ridiculous idea.
Yes.
There's no parking.
Yep.
Disabled access.
Yep.
It's ridiculous.
Yep, there is disabled access though.
Is there?
They're moving the doorway.
Okay, so
That
still
would
no
create
parking.
it.
If you remember when
Where are you going to park though?
if you remember when the
Park.
dentist wanted to double up all that one, and we had the meeting with the planning officer, one of the first things she said is if you submit a plan with no parking, it will get refused.
Yeah.
There's no parking on that site. It's not big enough. It's not big enough.
It's as much use as a chocolate
What we
flavor.
need in Barnoldswick is a full dedicated medical centre, like they have.
3 treatment rooms in the Reynolds Centre that aren't being used.
It's no more useful than
that
Bucks
they're being
Clinic at
paid
the
for
minute.
by the
Exactly.
NHS.
Yeah, it's no more. They might as well just close Bucks Clinic for 6 months and revamp it.
Useless.
Yeah.
Tom.
Yeah, no, they said it. I mean, I think the town council has an official stance on the use of that building as a clinic already.
Yeah.
So we don't
Like a
really
report.
need to be treading on ground.
Mm.
I mean, the actual planning app itself, I mean, there's no wrong with what they're proposing. I mean, the building's there. I just think we should just tell them they're wasting their money and look elsewhere, sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's not big enough for the growth of the town. It's
I
not
think-
growing
I think the
constantly. 3 clinics is not enough.
Parking and the fact that there's no disabled parking, regardless of access, you've got to get them to the building in the first
There's
place.
no parking at all.
No, there's nothing. It's as much use as a chocolate flavor.
Closest parking's in here. And that's full most days, every day.
Yeah.
And not using them. So what's that going to be?
I think we do the
An empty building?
diabetic eye checks and stuff there.
No, they're not using them at all.
Not using them
They've
at
not
all.
used them since the pandemic. Really?
Yes, Chairman, I think we're getting a bit twaddled, but it's certainly the case that the treatment room that they have at the Reynolds Centre hasn't been in use, but they have been doing baby clinics, and
Yeah.
there's there was a eye clinic today. So I mean, this goes to the problem that several people have highlighted. We've got Bucks Clinic as having campaigned for health centres that Mike was talking about.
Yeah.
We said that when they floated the idea of using the old Yorkshire Bank, and now they're submitting a planning application for it. So they've taken absolutely no notice whatsoever, not only our objections, but also the hundreds of other objections they've had from other people. And this is a planning application, so the planning authority, Pendle Council, will be looking at the planning merits.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not the wider thing. Doesn't stop us from commenting about the inadequacy. And I think Mike or John, perhaps, I'm not sure, said that, you know, it's inadequate. There isn't, you know, they're talking about 3 treatment rooms, which are tiny.
Yeah.
You know, there's no provision for the sort of baby clinics like, you know, when Tom were a baby. We used to go to Bucks, you know,
Yeah.
there'd be sort of like 15 mums or dads and 15 babies, or perhaps more, got twins. But, you know, it was a decent facility. Nowadays, adequate. In terms of the parking, I think we should object. You know, it is a town centre site, so
Yeah.
there isn't necessarily parking there and then. But given that they have another site where they could provide parking and, you know, space, it's appalling that they're short-changing us in this way.
Mm.
So I think there's a nub of it there.
Yep.
Yeah. I might be stating the obvious, and feel free to shout if I am, but if this were to go through and be allowed, then any future hope of a proper, adequate clinic will be knocked on the head automatically,
Yeah.
because they're going to say, "Oh, you got one."
Yeah.
So it's a double-edged sword, really.
I have that horrible fear it'll end up like the police station at And also, you know, that's an empty building.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the building that they could redevelop for a clinic.
Yeah, they could quite easily.
Yeah, yeah.
Anywho,
Clinical room 3 is
So-
currently the vault.
is it?
The vault doctor will see you.
Excellent.
I only know because it's been my branch.
So we have several objections.
Yes, we've all objected.
Okay.
Yeah. I would say we all have we all? Yeah.
Do we,
Yeah.
do we itemise and detail our objections, just so that we know?
I think the
I
main
would say
parking, isn't it?
I think
Inappropriate
Access,
for parking.
See, that's the only thing, because the other thing about it not being big enough, it doesn't matter, does it?
Yeah,
'Cause
it's the actual. There's no disabled parking and there's no normal parking.
I don't think it stops us from saying it's inadequate,
It
it
is
isn't big
inadequate.
enough, it doesn't adequately serve the town. You know, they're not planning things that Pendle can take into account, but the
Yeah.
things that need to be said.
Yeah, yeah.
Arborets and all that as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't bother with the nitty-gritty planning stuff, to be honest.
Just go away, it's not good enough.
Yeah.
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 Proposal, full erection of 128 dwellings, creation of new vehicular access from Longing Lane to all the associated works. The site of the former Bounty Shed, Longing Lane, Barnoldswick, by Seddon Homes.
The title is a bit wrong, isn't it? Because it is, yes, the site of the former Barnsley Shed, but it also extends into the floodplain, the water meadows, towards the well, it's equivalent to the end of the Silent Night Lorry Park. A short history is many moons ago Silent Night looked at extending over the canal and having both sides of the canal. That foundered, didn't happen. It was purchased by Westerns, who intended to create their new factory there, move out of Folridge. That didn't happen, and they eventually built at West Craven Business Park in Earby. It's owned, I still think it's owned by the pension scheme of one of the Sutton family that used to own Westerns. And many moons ago they got permission for a commercial development, which essentially was units, which never got built. And more recently it got outline permission for 145 dwellings, which and we, myself and colleagues, objected to, and I think the town council probably did, on the basis of proximity to Silent Night, potential for noise nuisance, and then you get residents complaining about the factory. The flooding issues, the extension into the green fields, there might have been something else in there as well. However, that outline planning consent, Seddons have an option to purchase from the Sutton pension pot, and their application included the water meadows at the end, and used the whole of the site for development. That was detailed application was turned down by Pendle Council because of the flooding issue. Couldn't go back to the potential noise issue with Silent Night, because that hadn't been objected to previously. So it wasn't in planning terms, it wasn't a grounds that could be used. And at Pendle, when councillors rejected it on the flooding grounds, the official advice was we didn't have a leg to stand on. It ended up, it went to appeal, and the planning manager actually approached me to say their consultant couldn't put a case together, could I do something? which I did, and actually I was very surprised to find that the planning inspector actually agreed with me, and I put enough evidence in for it to be rejected on flooding grounds. The new application, which I've gone through in some detail, I don't think addresses the flooding issues. I mean, this isn't fair to the developers, but in a sense, all it says is we're going to build the land up by 3 metres, so the houses will be perfectly okay, which completely ignores the damage that water will do downstream. Because if it's stored upstream and spreads out over the land as it does now, it means that it's just going to Adworth and into Earby. And we all know what happens in Earby on a far too regular basis. It gets flooded. So this is going to compound the flooding problems that they have downstream. And ironically, the Environment Agency are talking of creating upstream storage areas on Wencliffe Beck so as to reduce the risk of flooding in Earby at a cost of many millions of pounds. Here, nature has done it for us by, natural operations. The water collects there and then it drains away slowly, and bingo, you reduce the risk of flooding. So, in planning terms, because the only ground is about the flooding, the only thing that Pendle Council will be able to take into account is the flooding issue, because the planning inspector hasn't included any other reasons, and they are trying to overcome that. So I think a town council objection needs to major on the impact of flooding, and we need to spell out that Barnoldswick is actually on the watershed, and the water does flow towards and through Earby, because anybody looking at the map and think, oh well, Barley, it's northwest, it goes into the River Ribble. So it's important to recognise the damage that water could do. There may be other issues that are of concern to people. I think people, might still...
And the factory as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the wood rows on that side, it's the side of goods in, it's the noisy side of the factory.
Unfortunately, people forget when they're buying things next to something that's been there for years, that it's been there for years.
The developers, if you look at the plans, they've got acoustic fencing in, and they've got, I'm not sure if this application has triple glazed windows and stuff like that, which reduces the noise inside the dwellings. But nevertheless, it is. However, because that has not been a grounds for refusal in the past, it isn't something that the planning authority can take into account at this point. Doesn't stop the town council from saying, we are concerned, next to Silent Night, it's noisy and we get complaint. But
did we suggest when they put the acoustic fence up, did we suggest some sort of bushes or something like that across the canal front?
Massive.
Just to hide the fence, make it look pretty for people.
Don't know.
Back a long time, I think.
The other general issues, which I'm afraid won't get any traction, but the other issues are infrastructure, inadequacy of GPs, we talked about it, healthcare facilities, schools, traffic,
and
junction up at the top of Redon Road and Essex Street. Issues that we've been talking about tonight. So we could throw these things in, but because the way that planning works, the planning authority will say, well, they've been dealt with, and sorry, we can't go back on them, sort of thing. But I would suggest...
The main the flooding. They've taken the comments about the flooding and addressed it just purely for their site, to look after the houses that they're building, and haven't thought
not about the surrounding areas where it could potentially cause...
They just need to not build on that green space. Leave it alone.
Right. Do we take that as a proposal on the floods, and then
Yeah, I second that, what David said.
And then in the small print, be things that,
Yeah,
that are
additional
very
bits,
obvious. Yeah. Right. Everyone in favour?
Sweet.
Item number 13, Christmas light contract replacement string lights. To receive an update in the current on the current contract and replacement lights.
Me.
Joe.
Right.
Is it you?
So, it's me. Yeah. Oh, hi. Then, 1 minute. I need to forgotten all about me because I've been away now. Right, Christmas light contract. It was omitted when we took the current contract out, the height of the trees in the town square, the cones. We've had it rectified and now going to be bigger than they were before, but unfortunately that's come at a cost, which somebody helped me negotiate down.
Yeah.
It's still within budget,
Yeah.
but it was lower than we thought it was going to be. But when we've gone back to it, it's going to be £1,500 a year more, but they're now 6 metres rather than 4 metres. Previously they were 5 metres.
I remember that's why we didn't sign the contract last year.
Correct,
wasn't it?
Yeah.
but it's been rectified, but that's the outcome of it, that's what we've had to do to get around it.
Have they corrected, when we spoke about this last time?
The big
I'm sure
thing.
The mapping.
Yeah, yeah, because they were shocking.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'd be completely different
Trying to get
trees.
tips as well.
Yeah.
Right?
I- of the day that Joe was speaking to Light, I spoke to them as well, and I was assured that all the issues that we had would be sorted out. They are due to come on the 11th of this Friday. They suggested it'll be overnight. I have flagged that up with some of the local residents so that they're not too upset when they have the noise. However,
They were due to come that day and they didn't
yeah,
come.
Yeah.
Tom's trying to. Alright. So yeah, I mean, it should all be okay.
And it's within budget headers.
Yeah.
And the other one is about the replacement string lights.
Yes.
So it's just going to go up again, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we now should be right for a period of time where we're not having to replace any.
Yeah.
And all the new lights and the ones that we bought last year are now on trees, and we're taking them up. We had a fun morning in the team, 2 volunteers from fire and rescue, absolutely dripping wet through, but we've got Church Street done apart from it's at the far end, and we've got more fire and rescue volunteers working tomorrow, and if there's anybody willing to assist with putting them up, more or less, you know, sort of any time between now and Saturday, including Saturday. And I want to get them all up as many, apart from the ones with that need the cherry picker.
Right. Item number 14, warm spaces. To receive an update and agree any actions on provision of warm spaces. I have noticed there's quite a few places offering that at the moment.
Yeah.
So went out to, sorry, it's me again.
Yeah.
Went out and spoke to Lancashire County Council about what provision there was, and they said it was just the libraries. So then spoke to all the churches in Barnoldswick. Every day it's covered by, well, the library is covering every day, providing drinks and whatever, and all the churches are all putting something on every day. They've all taken the turns, and there's a programme. I've got all the information from all of them, fed it back to LCC because none of them were on there other than the library, so they should all be on the site. I've asked them about any grants or any funding that could be available for us to put something on, even though at the minute I feel like it's quite adequate. And when they update the website, I'll get it pushed out. But they've all given dates and what they're doing, and there's like brews and tea and toast.
It's sad
And
that this is what we've come to.
I know it is, yeah.
I have heard a comment about how they would like to have volunteers to be at the place so that when someone else turns up who needs it, they don't feel out of place, exactly alone, a bit off from having to use it on their own. So if we could just, and I sent some message out saying, look, join people's notice to it. Obviously, LCC aren't doing that much. If we don't know anything about it, then nobody else does. So if we could use the
Just go
council's
with it,
Facebook
free.
thing just to announce and
free
say what's
time.
on when.
Yeah.
Try and coordinate a little bit of free marketing for it, and then ask for any volunteers who want to feel like turning just to be there for the people. That I guess would be
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
appreciated.
Yeah, sent bill dates and everything, so I've got each one. I've gone back to this woman who's really helpful. But it would be good if they put some funding out there, because other county councils and district councils definitely have for now.
Chairman, when John raised this at general purposes,
Yeah.
and the other thing that I flagged up there, but I haven't had any bright ideas, was what we can do is if there's a prospect of power cuts, and that seems to be, sort of National Grid talking more and more seriously about it. And I like I say, I haven't had any bright ideas. If the power does go out, I mean, previously we've had parts of town where it's gone out, and other parts of town have been okay. And there was one occasion when power was off in one area for, an extended period of time, and I remember speaking to Joe about opening this place up and offering it as all that sort of stuff. But if the power goes out, it goes out, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And short of Rolls-Royce, sort of providing some of their, power.
Jet engines.
Well, I think they may have some redundancy with their power supply.
Yeah.
But I mean, we don't have, we don't have generators apart from tiny little ones. So I'm not sure, but I just throw it out there really. I think there could be a problem. If anybody has got any good ideas how we might address that.
Yeah.
If it affects the whole town, what do you do, really? Grin and bear it?
Are we on a different one to the
Candles.
park?
Well, I think if National Grid sort of switch the power off,
Switch it off, don't we?
it's off, innit? They might do it in areas, but we have one large substation which is at Rolls-Royce,
Right.
and then we've got smaller substations. So it comes in at 33 kVA, it goes out at 11 kVA to different substations. So potentially they could take individual, but they're not going to do that. It's going to be like the sort of 33 kVA supply goes off, and that affects everything from here through to Silsden, say. It'll be big areas, not small areas.
Set a bonfire up on Town Green or something.
Well,
We're
that's not.
looking now.
Miles.
We have things like power banks, and we have all sorts of little things that we can use to prepare for stuff like this. That back in the 70s when they did it, we didn't have as much. That I'll guarantee I'll just light a load of candles because I have loads.
That's what used to happen when
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
torch,
Oh,
lights and candles.
stop today.
Yeah.
Distribution companies are
Yes.
and I know, having dealt with 2 instances in the past where they lost the power, they've only got so much backup, and then they're in a life-threatening situation. Now, the power company's aware of that, and in one instance, they ended up putting generators in to power the area that they couldn't get the power to.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why they did that was because within that area was somebody who needed the respirator
Yeah.
to be kept going.
But the government said it's not going to happen.
Yeah, we can't sit here, but we don't know what's going to happen now.
Do we propose or say that if there are power cuts in the like sporadic across the town that this place could be opened and agrees that now.
Yeah.
So then we've got a plan, haven't we?
Yeah.
As long as this place has got power, we can open it, right?
Yeah.
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 But I need permission to that. I couldn't on the morning. I couldn't just say, well, everywhere's off. I'm going to go and open Civic because I'm not allowed to do it. But if we were,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
More than.
give delegated authority to the clerk
And I have
to
delegated authority to the clerk.
make facilities open.
Skipton, sorry.
And
Pardon?
I think if you're going to be doing something like that, we need some way to make brews without electric.
No, we're going to have electric.
I've got a kitchen and a separate camping stove. And all the canisters.
I've got a
I'll
gas.
write the risk assessment for that then, Jodie.
Okay.
We have all the floodlights, but it's people getting here. If every street light's out and everything, I think it's causing more danger bringing them out.
Yeah.
We'll
Some
let the light
people
at the
need need the company though. Sometimes it's just having someone there with them
To open up
rather than
Civic
sitting in dark on their own.
Yeah. Delegate authority for both
Yeah.
additional or another councillor. Because,
Alright.
you know, we don't expect you to be on call 24/7, Joe.
We just need to make sure this power to power light spot is.
Yeah. You can have the Caligas.
Keep the essentials on.
You can have
Keep
the
the
gas.
If
essentials
I've got that, I'll provide the tea and coffee and
Keep
everything.
the essentials
You keep
going.
my power on.
Are we sorted?
Yeah, without.
Item number 15, correspondence. Oh, have we got any comments on YouTube?
Yeah. Might the Masons be an organisation who could help with marshalling?
Masons.
Quite possibly, yeah. That's
Maybe.
worth a
What?
feel.
Anyone in it?
No, no.
Could the area around the bus hub be a more effective place for the town council notice board, as well as attractive planting?
Well, the notice board's broken, so that might be quite a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, next agenda then, provision of a new
Yeah.
notice board in the bus stop area.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind the power/cost challenges in the current economic period, what will be the hours of light for town Christmas decorations?
Ah,
So,
David.
Well, on that one, Chairman, as you recall at a previous meeting, I flagged this up as an issue, and we've explored the option of putting timers on the Christmas, the shop front displays. If it was possible to do it, the sort of broad brush figures we got, depending on what's there now and how much space there is in the feeder pillars with the existing equipment, was between 150 to 250 pounds a piece. As Mike Whittingham pointed out at a previous meeting, well, the timers themselves use power,
Yeah.
so there's an offset there. The upshot of that was that I think we might have reported this at the general purposes. The upshot of that was that we didn't really think it was a runner to do that, and the amount of power that is used is negligible, but nevertheless, it is something.
Yeah.
And I forget, is it 9 watts per strand?
yeah.
Yeah. So for each one of those shopfront Christmas trees, we're using 9 watts, which isn't a lot. So you can have 10. You could have 11 Christmas tree shop fronts on, and they would be using just less than an old incandescent 100-watt bulb. So not a lot.
To put it another way, it's equivalent to running half the power of a kettle 24/7. For all the Christmas trees that we put up, equivalent to half a kettle running all the time.
Chairman, as far as our all singing, all dancing programmable trees are concerned, and there is a bit of an implication here, but the programming depends on them being connected to the power supply 24/7. So I'm not sure what happens if we do have a power cut, whether that means that an engineer has got to come and sort of press the reset button or what. But yeah, we can't turn the power out to the ones on the town square or the ones on the columns.
So don't do that on.
I think the programme.
No, but the
Program notes,
So
it's on like on a standby.
They're on a time. They're on a built-in timer.
Yeah.
So their built-in timer will use less. It's like putting your television on standby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rather than us putting a timer onto something that draws next to
Yeah.
nothing. It could potentially draw more.
I think the answer is we have attempted to minimise the power consumption by using the most efficient lights that we possibly can. We continue to look at putting timers on, but both in terms of cost, it's prohibitive, and you know it costs more than ever we would save in electric.
Yeah.
But secondly, by the time we asked the contractors, they were full on installing Christmas lights all over the country. So they said, well, you know, if you wanted us to do it, we could do it next March, sort of thing.
Yeah. We've missed. Any more questions?
That was all of them. Yeah, that's it.
All right. Right. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I call this meeting to an end.
One of them. I haven't even got me one of them.